Welcome to the SPL waiting room. Phase 2 playoffs are closer than just around the corner. They're like an hour away. So we are right here and ready. Of course, I'm GoreMiser. A little bit later, we're going to be going through a lot of things about the Phase 2 playoffs, because guess what? That's the thing that is happening this weekend, in case you're not aware of that, I guess, going on. We'll have Aggro and Myflin a little bit later to talk to me about a lot of that, as well as a good look at a little bit of the Rosterpocalypse stuff that happened, in case you didn't catch that video, as well as some of our thoughts about the way this weekend is going to go. But of course, first and foremost, I should say, we got to talk about how this whole thing is working. If you didn't watch the last playoffs, there was a whole group stage that played into it, and then things maybe were a little more tumultuous. But really, we need to look at the format for this one, because that is what matters most. So 5th and 6th were already slotted where they were, as well as 3rd and 4th. So we ended up with, as you can guess, the Dragons going up against the Titans, a matchup that we saw in the Phase 1 playoffs, and Leviathans versus the Warriors. And that is going to be one, I think the first one that we're actually watching today, Dragons-Titans second set a little bit later on. The Kings, as first seed, got to choose which side of the bracket they wanted to be on. They chose to take on the winner of the Dragons-Titans, and that relegated, I guess, the other set to go against the Bolts when they end up playing tomorrow. So there you've seen the bracket, and there you know how they've gotten there. The Kings, of course, getting to choose that, and admittedly, I think they chose maybe the harder side. I don't know. That one seems like it's going to be difficult no matter who ends up there. You have to remember the Dragons made a run from that same bracket up against the Titans first, and that was an interesting one here. If you're wondering how Week 8 went, or actually, I'm going to go ahead and pre-plug this one, how the playoffs are going to go. You can go ahead and follow @BluesUltra on Twitter, Reddit, and Instagram, and you can get these beautiful graphics that showcase and synopsize these data points incredibly well, as well as showcase exactly what you need right there, the standings at the end of the phase that led directly into that there bracket that we're going to be playing through today. And it makes things a little more interesting, because we ended Phase 2, well, technically we ended it Monday with a King set as they solidified their first place, but we got to see the Dragons and the Titans play that Sunday. Things got silly is the best way to describe it. And so we get to see a full glimpse of what these teams are going to be bringing, what they've been preparing, and maybe trying to keep in their pockets so far. But like I said, it's not just me today. I've also got Aggro, I've got Myflin, who are going to be hanging around with me for today. And Aggro, this is going to be a fun weekend.
I can't wait, man. Anytime we start talking about high-stakes Smite, I start getting really excited. Best of fives. Personally, I don't miss them for regular season a whole lot, but I do love them when it comes to the postseason and these playoff events. And this is going to be big. I mean, gaining some momentum, coming out of Phase 2 playoffs, heading into the most important split of the year, trying to get ready for the World Championships. I mean, it's going to be pretty important.
Yeah, I've always considered myself as a player to be a LANimal. I mean, I think you did as well, but never really saw you at a LAN, so didn't get a chance to see that. But I think the same can be said of the casting career as well. It just feels so different, and the energy is so different when everybody's playing with the highest of stakes, as you said. And look, I'm excited for it.
Well, the only thing, this is looking much further ahead, but do you know that we're doing best of fives in Phase 3? That there's
unlucky for me.
Yeah, that's happening. I don't know. Did neither of you read our own blog post?
What do you mean? I'm laser focused on playoff score. Whenever we're done with playoffs, I'll read the blog post.
We announced it like Tuesday.
All right,
we're doing, we've
every
got
game?
Well, we have a single round robin first half that plays into the group stage, similar to Phase 1.
Okay, I like that.
And then there's going to be some best of fives. I think it's a Friday, Saturday, Sunday for 2 weeks in a row towards the end of Phase 3. I want to talk about playoffs, but this is kind of perplexing me. Either way, yeah, that's Phase 3 stuff. We're going to be going all best of 5, single elimination. That's the other key word, I guess, for this weekend. Every team has their chance, and that's going to end up breaking apart if they aren't able to make it. You have to look at some of these matchups. Again, the Warriors, Leviathans will be the very first game we watch. Not a good track history for the Warriors in that matchup so far this year, but based on what we've seen throughout this year, we've actually seen a couple of surprises. In fact, the last time we had playoffs, things were surprising. We sat down a little bit earlier this week and all gave our own individual thoughts on what we were going to see this weekend, as well as just on the teams themselves. So let's go ahead and get track of what we said.
The Phase 2 playoffs are finally here. The regular season saw us narrow the field down from 8 teams to 6. And now those 6 will compete to see who will come out as Phase 2 champions. By Oni Warriors standards, they would have expected to be higher up the table than they currently are, but they do still squeak into the Phase 2 playoffs with an uphill battle ahead of them.
The Oni Warriors have been one of the toughest teams to lock down throughout all of Season 8.
So I thought that Neoma in support in particular would be a great shot caller for a wall of talent behind him. Dardes, Vote, Nika, all these guys, Cuvo, Fred as well. Incredibly talented players that, given the right shot caller, should be able to hit great strides throughout the league. But so far, they have really struggled to find that expectations, to find their footing within the league.
From what I've seen during Phase 2 playoffs, after Phase 1 playoffs, our talking point was, oh, they might have figured it out. They put together a great weekend. They played their best Smite of the year by a mile. Can't wait to see what they're going to do in Phase 2. Phase 2 has been more of the same as Phase 1. Sit there and hope real hard that Nika carries us. That's not going to work. Teams are too good to... Nika's a great player, but it's not going to happen every game.
And I think that their goal, at least in my eyes, for this playoffs is to push beyond 3 games, push to a 5-game set, try to push to the semifinals, maybe even make it to the finals. But I think for them, any improvement is just such a huge win. And then to buckle down, take that, whatever you learn from this playoffs, and move into the Phase 3 and the rest of the year, knowing that you're a team that can do great, knowing that you're a team that has players on it that have lifted a hammer, deserves to lift a hammer. You have so much potential.
There's a clear top 4 in the Phase 2 playoffs. The Oni Warriors are outside of that top 4, but that does not mean the Oni Warriors don't have a chance. The Oni Warriors could find upsets, and the Oni Warriors could find themselves in the finals of the Phase 2 playoffs.
The Titans struggled in Phase 2, but with some late roster adjustments, how will they fare at playoffs?
Man, the Titans have gone through a lot this year. Roster changes. Now they're in a fun position where they've got a really great jungler as a sub and a really great jungler as their jungler now. Trading out Scary D, despite the fact that he was as tenured as he was, has definitely been a benefit for them. They've done nothing but look better since then.
On the Scarabs, Layers was the win condition. He was the one who was going to be carrying. I don't think he should be the win condition for this team. Let your backline win you your games. Between Aurora, Cyclone Spin, Paul in the mid lane, who's argued as one of the best players in the world, if not the best to ever do it in that conversation, and Benji over in the solo lane, you know what you've got with the core of this team. Your backline is Cyclone Spin and Paul. You can win any game you show up to because those dudes just might go absolutely nuclear at any given moment.
It's been consistent aggression from Cyclone Spin out of the ADC role. Layers has now kind of shifted himself away from that hyper carry role that he was trying to fill while playing for the Scarabs, and instead has become a little bit more so a facilitator for this team. And while the Titans are looking all the stronger for it, I think that this is a squad that you need to keep your eyes on going forward because really, they are the threat that everyone thinks they are.
The Phase 1 champions, the Jade Dragons, came into Phase 2 with a lot of expectation on their performances. However, Phase 2 was trickier than they expected.
The Jade Dragons, or the Jazzberry Jammers, are probably one of the most fun teams to watch within the league because they have a clear ideology on how the game should be played. We're either going to win or we're going to lose, but it's going to take 20 minutes at the end of the day. If they could end every single match at the exact 20-minute mark, that's exactly how they want to play.
The Jade Dragons team has struggled at points throughout the year, and it's points where their confidence feels a little shaken, where they're not able to play the in-your-face game style, where another team comes out and punches the Jade Dragons in the mouth. That is when the Jade Dragons have stumbled.
But now we're getting to playoffs, and I'm starting to wonder. I think this is a team that might just win the entire playoffs because they know to turn up when it matters, and I think that's what they're starting to learn for themselves. I think this has been a trial run in Phase 1 and potentially a trial run in Phase 2 to showcase that while their seeding is important to them and while showing up on every game day is important to them, that they can get to a decent enough seeding where they don't have to worry about too much, and then they can pop off when the moment's right. They can win the tournaments that are necessary for them to win.
I just think that you do need to give yourself a little bit of ramp-up time, and I think if the Jade Dragons don't come ready for their quarterfinal matchups, so they're not locked in and ready to go for quarterfinals right away, they're gonna find an opponent, I'm sure, that is going to be hungry to beat them.
Atlantis Leviathans came into Phase 2 aggressive as ever, but as the phase continued, roster adjustments were required. Now with a new ADC, how will they perform?
The Atlantis Leviathans are the new hot team on the block, man. I mean, you pick up the two-time, you pick up Zapman, of course people are going to be talking about you and how well you've been playing recently. But I was really, really impressed with their win over the Bolts here on LAN. These LAN games, everyone gets up a little bit more, everyone's a little bit more excited. And particularly, I was blown away by Panatom and how well he played in that LAN environment.
The early game aggression has really started to ring through the mid lane. Shinto and Panatom in particular have stood out incredibly well for this team. Maybe Shinto a little bit more so, but that seems to be the strategy for this team is let's let Shinto get as much farm as possible and then allow him to carry us inside of the late game. And it's a good strategy. How many times have we watched this team play anyone in the league? It doesn't matter if they're playing against the Scarabs, the Bolts, or the Dragons. It's always Shinto finding a 1 or 2 level lead at some point in the game, rotating in towards one of these mid-game team fights, these neutral objectives, and then immediately shoving that lead down the throat of whoever he's playing against. And if that's the strategy for the Leviathans, and I can only assume it is because of how consistently it happens, it's a good one.
This is a team that has struggled traditionally in playoff events. When it comes to playoff Smite, the Atlantis Leviathans, this roster, whether it's Season 7 or Season 8, has struggled to move deeper into the tournament field. Zapman changes that. Zapman is a player who on arguably worse teams has made runs and won world championships despite all of the odds being against him. This is the 2-time back-to-back we're talking about here. This is a guy who knows how to win playoff Smite. And that changes this Leviathans team for the better.
And I think that when they're feeling this confident and this relaxed, I don't think they feel that same pressure that they maybe felt last year to come in and prove themselves. I think that they've proved themselves enough to anyone with 2 eyes and a brain that they are deserving of some of the top spots in the SPL. These guys are incredibly talented. And I think if the Leviathans can stay out of their own head and just play their game, I think they might be the winners of the Phase 2 playoffs. I am very high on the Leviathans.
The Olympus Bolts find themselves in 2nd seed heading into the Phase 2 playoffs. Phase 1 saw them reach the finals, but can they win it this time?
The Olympus Bolts are another team that it's who knows what version of them you're going to get on a given day. They've proven through Phase 2 that if they're playing at their best, they will win. They went undefeated, nearly went through the longest winning streak in SPL history. They were undefeated through the large part of Phase 2. Incredibly impressive play. But then 3 set losses towards the back few weeks of Phase 2. Does that start to hit at their confidence? I think they kind of lost a little bit of that magic that they had, where Venenu was playing incredibly well, Lazarus was playing incredibly well, Jake was playing a little bit of a different play style. These last few weeks, I felt like they're reverting back to some of those same mistakes that they used to make. They're forcing bad fights, not fight selecting super well.
It was Zapman earlier on this year who had said, the Bolts win when the dual lane is able to invade purple buff and then keep invading purple buff. And, well, the Bolts aren't secretive about that strategy. They continue to do so. It's just raw aggression over there that nets them the majority of their leads. And they've got great players that they can fall back on.
Between Venenu, Lasbra, and Barracuda, this Olympus Bolts team, whether it's shot calling, play on field, the whole 9 yards, pick and ban, has become consistent and deadly. If Venenu and Lasbra can show up in these games and keep playing some of the best Smite that they've played in their career, the Olympus Bolts are looking like a very, very threatening team.
8 sets undefeated, watching them continue to grow, and despite their last week of play having that 1 loss against the Leviathans, looking very, very solid as a team, as a unit, to the point where I think Barra had said it in an interview at one point, they don't care about anything else other than winning the playoffs. Seeding doesn't matter, they just want to make it there, and they want to win it.
Surprising to some, the Camelot Kings find themselves top of the SPL after regular season play. They enter the playoffs with a huge advantage. But do they have what it takes to close the season out just as strong as it began?
So the Camelot Kings are this team that coming into Season 8, none of us had any idea of where to rate them. Like, they're obviously all really good players, but a bunch of play styles that hadn't played together before, how would genetics and Netrioid mesh in the dual lane, all that kind of stuff. And then the ping issues come into play, and now we really have no idea what to expect. But they've been one of the best teams in the league all year. They've been incredibly impressive.
And now later on in Phase 2 of Season 8, this Camelot Kings team has worked into a meta that suits their play style and doesn't rely on one specific thing to go right.
But once they hit their stride, they became what feels like just a different beast to tackle. I think that they have done an incredible job really showcasing their uniqueness as a team in their picks and bans, the way they play. It is very difficult to come into a draft and deal with them, and I think you could probably thank Biggie for that.
Big Man Tings in particular has really stepped up for this squad. Back in Season 7 or in Season 6, some people would have described him as a role player, someone who was just there to fit in with the team. They were just there to fill a role. And now, in Season 8, he's a dedicated, bona fide hyper carry. This guy has got a diverse god pool. He's playing aggressive. He can switch to that facilitator style. He's got a couple of pocket picks that not a lot of other players are playing, kind of like that Raw that we saw towards the beginning of Season 8. I'm just a huge fan.
But I don't know, something's just kind of nagging at me a little bit. I hope that I'm proven wrong, because I think they're one of the most fun teams to watch in the entire league. But I'm not exactly buying Camelot Kings to win Phase 2 playoff stock quite yet. Super possible. They're a great team. But they got to prove it to me that they can do it in the clutch.
When playoffs roll round, anything can change, and anything can happen. We'll just have to see what's in the script.
In the script, like he planned it. Well, actually, I guess he did plan it. Yeah, no, either way, it has a big weekend ahead of us because this has been a lot of teams where everybody, in theory, could win. Like, if the Warriors win, and Aggro and Myflin, I'm sure you could levy with me on this one, which is that it's one that is maybe very surprising.
Yeah.
But it's not so outlandish that we're like, oh, well, it's impossible, right? It's a difficult
Wait, did you
path.
say the Warriors?
Yeah, I said the Warriors. That's how I started
I'll
that.
say impossible.
You'll say impossible?
I'll say that.
He's
It's close.
Starting with it. Okay.
I would,
Wow.
like anywhere between 0.05 and 3% is what I'd give them.
That's,
Somewhere in that range.
But you know what I just heard? Not zero.
Not zero.
Yeah, it is a
No,
non-zero
yeah.
chance.
He got you there. I mean, it isn't zero
Wow.
at the very least.
And that's the definition of impossible.
correct.
So
would be zero.
I stand corrected.
No, you said it wasn't impossible.
Oh, I didn't. I did.
Oh no, you did say impossible.
so
Yeah,
there
you were
go.
wrong. Yeah, you
see,
were wrong.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I stand corrected.
And I said close to it, and therefore I'm right because it's close to impossible,
Yeah,
but not quite.
Okay. Yeah,
But
yeah.
it feels like we have this weekend ahead of us that we admittedly kind of don't know what's going to happen. I mean, that's always the good thing about it, but we've got so many teams that it feels like are on top of the world right now or have that capability that we don't really know what the layout's going to be over the next few days.
This is the first LAN event that I can remember where I don't feel pretty strongly about who's going to win. Worlds last year, I thought Rival was, or Ghost, I'm sorry, was the number one favorite and nearly won it. The LANs last year felt like it was going to be particularly that team the vast majority of the time, that the Jade Dragons were going to win Phase 1 playoffs. All of that felt pretty, obviously not guarantee, but I felt pretty confident in predicting those things. I have zero confidence in my pick. Zero. Like, I could have thrown the dart at 4.5 different teams at this event and been like, yeah, I can see how they win.
Who's the half?
The Titans.
Okay, all right. Fair enough. And you know what? It's going with that, the only thing I'm confident in saying is that the Oni Warriors probably aren't going to win. If any of these other teams do win, I would say it's even a stretch to consider them upsets. If the Tartarus Titans win this, I would be stretching to call that an upset, and they are likely, statistically, not the favorites coming into this, but they've got some raw talent.
Yeah, no doubt.
I mean, this has been, like you said, just insane to the point where there's always been a clear favorite. At one point or another, there's always someone that is like, okay, this is the team we expect to do really well, or at least to show up and have a good performance. And, you weren't necessarily wrong with Worlds, although proven wrong, but that's a whole Neil and Zap passive thing that gets active right there. That's a different conversation. But we do still have about 35 minutes before playoffs kick off, and so we're going to kill a little bit more time. And I'm going to ask you some facts for Faxy Gaming. I'm going to go through the Phase 2 numbers that are, I like
so
them.
good at this.
And,
Sure.
I actually think, so while a couple of these probably aren't going to matter too much, I do think one of these has a lot of relevance specifically for playoffs as well, because I would argue one of these, the answer to one of these, kicked off actually with the Phase 1 playoffs, even though it maintains relevancy here through Phase 2. Either way, let's restart, refresh. How many gods were played in Phase 2? There's the question. I think I tweeted this out, so if you...
I turned off my Gore notifications because it was just consuming my life.
I lost
I'm going to go...
priority.
Is it Price is Right rules?
I'll just say closest.
Okay. That's good because Myflin would have hosed me otherwise. I'm going to go with 106.
Okay.
I'm going to go 106.
That was actually my guess.
Oh, I'm lucky
you
for you.
monster.
Are you Shikamaruing me?
He's trying to channel
100
the energy of the universe.
and 7.
107.
He still tries to Price is Right me.
Now, so how many are there in the game? There's 116
112?
now with
Something
Charybdis?
like that, yeah.
So
that's what I meant.
the answer is 103. So Aggro, you're going to be the one who
Let's
gets the
go,
point
baby.
for that one. Yeah, we were missing for Phase 2. I didn't actually keep track of the ones for individually
That's
for Phase 2. There's only 5 gods that haven't been played this year. I can know that off the top of my head.
There you go.
And like 20 that haven't been banned this year. I have a list for that for some reason because I got bored one night. Next question. How many players got over 100 kills here in Phase number 2?
You
A
have to go
couple of
first
them
this
have
time.
pushed
Okay,
up over
those are the
200
rules.
for the year.
There are 5 players per team. There are 8 teams in the league. That's 40 players.
Yeah.
Some of them aren't
Quick
very
maths.
good.
Name 3.
I can't do that. I'll go ahead and say that at least 54 people got 100 kills.
54 people got 100 kills in a league that you literally just said has 40 players.
Less than that. I'm going to go with 39. I'm going to be close. Guaranteed. No, in all honesty, I'm going to guess 9 players at 100 kills.
Myflin,
Well,
you
real-
said
okay, I
50.
mean,
No, he got
real
50.
guess
No, he
is
got
20.
50. No, he got 50.
Your real guess is 20?
No, his real guess is 50. Mine is 9.
9. The answer is 12. So 9, closest overall.
Is it
I'll
closer
even name them.
than 50?
And you can see them down at the
Yes.
very bottom. But yeah, Shinto,
Oh, no.
Biggins, Netroid, Sam, Panatom, Vin, Twig, Herwind, Lasbra, Bara, Panda, and Zap all got over 100 kills. Quite a few junglers in there, quite a few carries that they weren't there a couple of weeks ago.
No solo laners in there, interestingly enough.
No supports.
Nope. Well, that's expected.
Yeah, I think
How close is PBM? I got to think he's really close.
there was
I
a
don't
point where I remember tweeting like, "Oh, hey, Shinto's got like 4 kills until he hits 200 for the year," and Bobby replied, "How many do I need?" And
Oh,
it was
dude.
like 164. Or
Right.
something.
Yeah.
I was like, "I believe it. You got it this set, man."
I mean, he walked into that one. Like, what are you supposed to do there?
that was all in good fun.
Yes.
All right. And the last question that I prepared. There's a bonus
I'm
question.
up 2-0, correct?
Yeah, you're up 2-0.
Okay, so I've already won.
There
Wait,
is a
this
bonus
one's got
question.
double points.
Oh,
Last
so
question always
it's kind of
double
like
points.
it's kind of like. Have you ever noticed that Family Feud? The first few rounds don't matter.
Yeah.
Because they just keep adding points so that the team can continue to win.
Well,
so even though we know I'm the superior player at this point, Myflin can still win because it's double points.
I need
And
to do
winning
that
is all
for
that
my-
matters.
My
Yeah.
trivia days on Media Day. I need to make it so it's bonkers and the first few questions don't mean anything. other than
Exactly. That's how they
just
do
to
it.
answer. Either way, which god with at least 5 games played? I had to put that in there because otherwise there's like, oh hey, well this god played 1 game and had 100%.
Oh, no.
Who had the highest win rate with at least 5 games played?
Now, if you had given me 10, because I was recently looking at this, if you had given me 10, I think I could have told you.
Okay.
But with 5 games played,
Minimum 5.
minimum 5,
Which means it's probably less than 10 that this god has.
yes, yes, I agree.
Yes.
I'm going to go with. No, she has too many.
I went first last time.
Yeah, no, you did. You did.
But
It's fine.
do you have an answer right now, Myflin, or are you just gonna wing it?
I'm going to go off what he does.
Oh, okay.
How? It's
I'm,
a god.
I'm playing the field. all
there's
right?
there's 103 of them. That
If you
were
don't know
played.
how to adapt, that's on you, bro. I'm not
Okay,
going to teach
all right,
you.
Fair enough. I think I'm wrong, but I'm going to go with Serket.
Sirkat?
There's way more than 10 for Sir Cat.
Well, yeah, it's
I
a
know.
minimum of 5 games.
Yeah,
Myflin, not
but
exactly
if you
5
had said
games.
more than 10, it would have been a different god.
Correct. I think.
So,
I don't know.
maybe.
Maybe not. Maybe
I'm
not.
pretty sure.
Well,
How
okay.
many games have we? Oh, man, my original guess was Gilgamesh, but he's in like literally every game.
Yeah.
Who wins the most? Who's
The
getting
Kings.
locked in? And I'm like, they're gonna win.
Mm-hmm.
Is this for all year or just
This
phase
is
two?
phase 2.
Oh man, Raijin.
Raijin was kind of bonkers good
But he was 8th in win rate overall among
How
gods
do you
with
know
10.
that?
I was
He
looking
must.
at it
I was going to say
yesterday.
he must have been looking at it. The
I was
highest
looking at it yesterday.
with at least 5 games played goes to Mercury. He's played 6 games. He's won 5 of those 6.
Who played all 6 of those games?
It's Sam.
It's, yeah,
Was it all
I think
Sam?
they're all.
No,
Sam.
I think Twig played like 2.
I can look.
Did
that
he?
up
And
really fast
those
for you.
are the losses.
But I will say I had to throw out
Maybe Twig
there
won 1 and 1.
the honorary mention was to Nemesis because Nemesis only had 4 games played but had a 100% win rate across 4 games, which is kind of bonkers.
Interesting.
And yes, no, Twig has played 2 games of Mercury, so he's won
Wow.
1, lost 1.
God.
Wait, did he
Damn,
lose
he's
1? Hold
good.
on, I gotta look. I gotta look because there's a bonus fact, but I gotta know my things. He actually won both of them.
oh, so
Ooh.
Sam lost.
So
one.
Sam
All
lost
right, fair
one.
enough.
Yeah,
There
Sam
we
do
go.
be losing sometimes.
Yeah, that's true.
All right, and then we have a bonus fact. I don't know what this question is, so I have to read it off the screen. How many players were last hit by Fire Giant? How many were solo?
Oh, you tweeted this.
Question 2 production. Is this all time or is this phase 2?
Oh, that's a good question. All time, you tweeted. Okay, it is all time.
Jeez. And I tweeted it. I
And you
should know
tweeted
this.
it. You guys have Alienware laptops. I don't. Myflin, why are you deer in the
Oh,
headlights?
you know what?
here?
Wait, you know what?
I'm playing back all the
Hold
years
on.
of Smite.
You know what?
You didn't. Okay, never mind. I'm not
No,
going
no,
to throw
please,
you under the
go-
bus.
no,
that
go
way.
on, go on.
Okay, you're playing back all the years of Smite, and you pointed a picture of Ataraxia in the hallway and went, "Who is that?"
But here's the question. My assumption.
In my defense,
No.
he is not Smite. Okay, I'm playing back the games themselves. All right.
Sure.
I've got perfect recall.
What
for every
god was
Conquest
Ataraxia known
match.
for playing? What role did it play?
ADC.
Okay, good.
God.
What about it, Gore? What about the god?
He asked it first.
Oh, okay. What was the question?
What gods are Ataraxia known for playing? I'll give you a couple.
All right, give me a couple.
No.
Oh, you said
no,
you
you're-
were- you
I'm
said
giving
you-
you the option of answering.
Okay,
with a couple. Not even like his most
This
iconic.
has nothing to do with
What
the question.
year was Ataraxia playing?
Anyways,
Yes.
Jingwei was one of them. Yeah.
Nailed it.
Kerninos, another. Okay. Yeah, I guess.
Jingwei was going to be my answer because I wanted to seem cool. too.
He's a European ADC. Got to be Jingwei, right?
Yeah, you're right. In answer to this bonus question, I'm
What was
going to
the
go the one
It's
about
on
last
your,
thing.
it's
Oh,
literally
Fire
on
Giant.
your
Got it.
monitor. Just
Oh,
look at it.
snap. You right.
I'm going to go that I think over the years, 46 players have been last hit by Fire Giant.
Now, I'm going to go ahead and throw this out there. When it says last hit by Fire Giant, that means that any other like if they took 90% of their damage to like a mid laner, and then the Fire Giant did the last 10%,
Got the
the
final-
kill goes still to the Fire Giant.
Oh, then I'm
Not
gonna
just
up my
the
answer.
soloed is.
So you're telling me
strictly done
it doesn't
by
need to
Fire Giant.
say Fire Giant has slain.
Yeah, that's
X.
soloed. How many were soloed as Fire Giant has slain X?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So we need both anyway.
I'm
Okay.
going to go 240 for last hit by Fire Giant.
Okay.
And Fire Giant has soloed 15 people throughout the years.
I'm going to go with 137 have been killed by Fire Giant.
Specific.
And I'm going to go with 13 have been
Did you almost
soloed.
say 15?
I almost said 14. I almost said 14.
I'm not 100%, but I want to say you're both wrong.
Okay,
then
tell us what
I'm pretty sure last hit is 403 or somewhere around there
So I'm
because
winning that one.
it was at like
Okay.
398.
Gore's winning that one.
And then a couple of people.
He doesn't know the answer.
Yeah, I
He's
don't know
guessing.
the answer. This is all. This
did
is
he
my
guess?
guesses.
He's
403.
You interrupted him guessing.
Oh, I thought he was reading the answer.
No.
It's on the screen. Mifflin. It works the same time every time. 403.
Oh, it is there.
And then how many were soloed? I think it's like. It's like just below 200 and like the 190.
Really?
range, I think.
That many?
Raffer had no. That one actually. Hold on. I think I'm jumping way too high for that one.
Straight to Raph. huh?
Yeah.
48 on its own. You were close.
313.
Yeah, you
no,
were
no,
right.
That,
Okay.
I think that first number is wrong though because I was, or maybe I was,
calling out
or maybe I'm
production.
100 ahead. No,
No,
because
I think you're 100 ahead. Gore. I
I had
trust.
asked Zayden about it, and I'm pretty sure it was like 398 like 2 weeks
Wait,
ago.
did I
or
win
something
this
like that.
one?
No, Gore won.
How did Gore win?
He was closer.
I said 40.
Zayden said so.
Zayden said so. Okay,
Well,
well,
that's
hey.
all there is to it.
Oh, whatever, man. All right. I want to recount.
No.
All right. Fans at home, you know I won this.
I'm gonna look.
Oh,
it
wrong
up
game. Fans at
afterward.
home, you know I won this.
You know what? I think I was just 100 off. I think I put myself at 400. Whatever. Either way, hey, there you go. What was it? 48. Raffer.
48.
I know Raffer was the most soloed of the Fire Giant. Like of the players who had been 100 to 0'd, I think it was him at the highest.
Got the
and then
number.
I think it was adapting afterward. I think it was 6.
That's
It was
a lot.
6 or
That's
3.
too many.
Too many.
It's 3
Yes.
or 6. I
Should
can't
have learned your
remember
lesson
which
after
one.
the first 5.
Yeah.
That one.
But let
somewhere
that
on
be
my
a
Twitter.
lesson to you, Myflin. No objective solos Raffer 7 times in a row.
Yeah.
3 times? Okay, yeah, I doubled it.
Oh, it's only 3?
I'm just
Oh, okay.
going. I'm just
All right, well, then fair
highballing all of my numbers.
All right,
this
sorry, Raph. Only 3. That's
Still
an
too
acceptable
many.
number.
I'd say
No,
still
no.
too many.
Totally acceptable.
I've never been sold by Fire Giant in my life.
Can I
That's
check on
probably a
that?
lie. No, but I bet like you're like doing
Okay, yeah.
design stuff.
Yeah, I can help. Yeah,
But, hey,
I'll work on
Lermy,
it, yeah.
look up Myflin's account and see
Yeah,
if he's
and
been
see if-
100 to 0 by
Don't do
Fire
that.
Giant.
Oh,
I'm
yeah,
sure-
please do that.
Don't do that.
Yeah, no, we're going to need that. We're going to need that for sure.
All right. Well, I was wrong. I'm going to just own up
all
on
right.
that one. I was wrong on the last one. Either way, now we can move over to the predictions and what we thought was going to happen. Hey, playoffs! They're still today. Y'all
yeah.
remember that? We were talking about
Soon.
that for a little while. So we'll see what we all said. And I think this is a little different. It's not our full brackets. It's the individual teams we thought were going to end up taking the first place
Wow.
trophy. A lot of people going for the Kings, Dave, J-Mac, Myflin. Me and Aggro over here agreeing on the Leviathans, despite the fact that if they win their first set, they have to play against the Bolts, and they've lost
right.
against the Bolts every single time
Yeah.
at every SBL playoff they've been in.
Interesting to me that no one picked either the Jade Dragons, who won Phase 1 playoffs, or the Olympus Bolts, who were undefeated for like 9 weeks
Yeah.
in Phase 2.
They're the second seed, man. What do I care about number 2?
Well, you're going with number 1. It's
That's
just,
right.
It's just that
That's
simple.
just
huh?
that simple.
Oh, okay.
Well,
Do you
but
remember?
hey, Myth, who was first seed in the last playoffs?
Bro, you know better than to ask me questions like this. Come on. It's the Camelot Kings.
No, they didn't make
The
it to the
Oni
Phase 1
Warriors.
playoffs. They literally
Olympus
weren't
Bolts.
there
The
for Phase 1
Olympus
playoffs.
Bolts.
Yeah,
Nailed
good.
it.
Yeah, nailed it. And then, of
First
course,
try.
I thought it was interesting because I was actually torn between 3 teams. I was thinking, well, 4 teams. Almost 5.
Yep.
I was tempted to put the Titans the way Taco did because I think that they actually, again, they've been looking a lot better.
They have.
And so while it'd be a little surprising, I don't think it's necessarily outlandish that they could win it. And then I was thinking about the Dragons just because I know that they're the kind of team that is going to be like they're going to have a lot of trouble. I actually think it's this first set that the Dragons play is the one that turned me away from voting for them, and it's simply because I think the Titans have a decent chance of winning this one. In fact, I'm going to go out and say if I had to make a bracket, I was going to have the Titans winning this in 4.
Really?
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I was close between the Leviathans and the Dragons and the Bolts. Those were my 3 teams that I was choosing.
Donde
between.
está Kings, amigo?
Did you watch my video of the video that we just
Yeah,
played
you said
where
you
I
weren't
said I'm not?
convinced. Go further into it.
I did in the video, man.
Oh,
You
okay.
didn't watch.
I'm too busy doing this thing. We're doing a waiting
I
room.
was watching.
Yeah, well, you're not attentive in conversation.
You're not attentive to anything as far as I'm concerned.
Gore, what's the next segment?
Wait, you threw me off. Yeah, well, so playoffs are starting next. We did a video, I believe it came out yesterday,
did.
about the Rosterpocalypse. A lot of these teams went through some changes, and so if you were watching either in Phase 1, you have no idea what's been going on since then, or if you only watched the first little bit of Phase 2, a lot of these teams had a little bit of a facelift, and things are going to be changing as we move forward. And so we did a video breaking that down, talking to the players about all those changes, and you know what? I can't describe it any better than that. We'll just let the video speak for itself.
It took a while for roster changes to start happening in Season 8, but once it started in earnest. Let's rewind a bit, all the way back to Phase 2, Week 3. The Olympus Bolts and the Solar Scarabs are set to face off in the first in-studio SMITE match since before the pandemic started. But when it comes to day of, turns out that their solo laner can't play. Solar Troll had not gotten his second vaccine shot and thus was ineligible to come in and play in the studio that day. And that did not sit well with some members of the Scarabs.
We were looking at that LAN event as like a new leaf, I guess, for the team, or like just a refreshing, like new start.
Right after that set, I was definitely not happy. I was really kind of just pissed, honestly, about how things went down. And when Sok gave us that the information, or like when he told us that he didn't have a second round before the matches, I kind of like mentally just was out of it from like that point on.
Lairs DM'd Brendan Baronic to tell him that basically just gave him an ultimatum and said, it's either me or Sot. If you want to play with Sot, I'm leaving. But I'm not playing with Sot again.
When we benched Sot, it was kind of a difficult decision because he's hard to replace, and we kind of didn't want to replace him. We kind of wanted him to just, mature up a little bit and become the player we know he can be, because he's just a maniac when it comes to mechanics. If you ever watch his Herc games, it's just like, I watch his stream sometimes, I'm like, yeah, maybe I could do that, but nah, he's insane. And the whole Lairs ultimatum thing, Lairs was on the up and up with us. He was improving, maturing, and all that stuff, or at least we thought. And so we kind of went his way. And then we didn't want to kick SOT. We didn't want to like, just get him out of there. We kind of just wanted to bench him and then kind of calm the waters, and hopefully everyone can come back in. Let's, put our game faces on and try to win some SMITE games.
It was just a nightmare in my opinion, just for me personally, and I don't know how they could just like shrug it off, like, because we are playing like one of the better teams, and the whole like high-res studios, everyone's hyping the match up for like a week straight prior to the matches. They're like, be sure to not miss this match against the Bolts, it's gonna be real good. And it was not real good, so it's definitely not ideal, and it was just unfortunate. But I like I said, me personally, I couldn't do it. I don't know how they shrugged it off. I think it was just unacceptable, personally.
I was already like, it's kind of biased, but I was already like a little bit on his side. Like, I wanted to be fair to SOT the whole time, obviously. Like, I think a lot of his issues were out of game stuff that he could definitely work on, but just our environment needed to change. And at the time I didn't know, or I didn't 100% realize that Layers was kind of part of that problem of the team environment.
And then I get a text from Brendan. Brendan's like, yo, you should get on Discord, it's like really important. And Brendan really never texted me like on my phone. He like texted my like number, which I was like, oh boy, like either they're kicking me or like something happened to SOT, or like something's bad, it's like gonna happen. So I get on, and then they tell me that Zap left to the Leviathans.
So basically we lost a lot of like confidence in Julio, because like all the things happened, like he was having a bad attitude. Yeah, so first I messaged Nika and I told him, yo, you wanna join the team? And he was like, he was like, I'm loyal, I wanna do this. Oh, it's okay, man. He was like, no, I hope you guys do great. And he was nice. And then we're like, okay, what do we need? Like, Jarkor can move to solo. Are we getting an ADC? Who can come? We're like, Sapman seems like a smart guy, right? 2-time world champion,
And I get a message from Rangyu. And I see on my Discord, I don't really read my Discord messages when I'm streaming. I look over and I see it, I'm like, wait, who is that? And I don't recognize the emblem, And so I finished a rank game and I looked over at my screen and I saw it was from Rangyu. I was like, wait a minute. I'm like, what's going on over here? He doesn't message me. And I looked over, I read it, and as I was reading it, my eyes were getting wider and wider because I kind of couldn't believe it. I was like, wait, really? They want to pick me up? And my first thought was pretty, like I was in shock, and then I was like, but my team is good. I don't really like, I like to be loyal to my team. I don't really like to leave unless I kind of have to, or I'm kicked or something like that.
Oh no, because when he messaged me, I thought it was gonna be something like, yo, I got something I want to try in scrims, yo, what if we do this? Like something like that. And then it changed to, I got a roster offer, and my heart kind of sank in the moment.
My initial reaction was like, well, of course, something else piles on top of all of this mess, but I think, how he handled it, I really respect too, because he got me, Slaney, and Bobby in a call, and we weren't mad at him at all if he were to take that offer. I mean, we all understood, like, there was not much we can say to, like, keep him on the team at that point, to be honest.
And I always thought the Scarabs had potential, and I love Bobby, I love Slaney, I love Barana. We get along really well. SOT as well, we hang out all the time. And so it was kind of tough. I was like, I don't really want to, I don't want to leave the boys high and dry, but this is an incredible opportunity. But with all the drama going on and things like that, I'm okay with dealing with drama and problems if it's within the scope of the game, like disagreements with the team about how to play something, or like arguments like you should have done this, should have done that. I don't mind that kind of stuff. That stuff is, it's in the work environment. It has nothing to do with real life stuff. But the problems that we were dealing with on the Scarabs had to do with real life things and things that I couldn't personally fix with my, knowledge of SMITE or something like that. And so because it was those kind of issues, that really led me to making the decision of leaving and joining the Leviathans.
I guess good for him, because we were having like really, really rough time on the team, but they also like kind of really focused me out personally. They kept saying that it was all my fault, which, I mean, that's Zap said when he left it was because of me, or it was because of me and Sot. And they didn't really say anything to Sot, I don't think. I think there was a little bit of, I guess maybe they're just like leaning towards me more, like mostly that it was like all on me, you know, which I don't think was true. If Sot did what he was supposed to do, that would have never happened, you know, in the first place.
I don't know, at that point, like, we were all kind of bothered with both of them. We think both of them were acting like really immature, and I think that's kind of like a big characteristic of like the story that the Solar Scarabs have so far, is a lot of immaturity. So we just kind of added them both and said, yo, Sap's leaving, we gotta find an ADC.
When it rains, it pours, and that was the case for the Solar Scarabs. They had games that weekend up against the Oni Warriors and the Valhalla Valkyries. 2 games that felt like must-wins for a team that was trying to get out of the bottom end of the league. And now, they don't even know who's playing for them that week.
Because we were not sure if Slenny, or like if Sot could play. So that was my whole mindset, was just to bring in Wolves for just a weekend, just to have because like I said, we had the doubleheader this past weekend against 2 of the bottom teams on paper. Like the Warriors haven't been really doing too hot, and the Valks are like the worst team, right? So like it's not like we're playing against the Bolts and then like it doesn't really matter who we bring in, right? We're still gonna probably just get slapped up, but we have opportunities to win. And in my mind, I thought maybe bringing in Wolves for the weekend would better our chances with a different ADC, like either Krim or Stewart. So,
I mean, the reason I was so against it was because Lyris has essentially said he doesn't want to play with Sot anymore, and he wants a different solo. So I think if we did bring in Wolves, that is going to kill Sot's confidence. That's going to probably kill Sot's want to be in the team. It's basically giving Lyris another, I don't know, chip of power, whatever you want to call it, when we already gave him the one with when we wrongfully kicked Sot. And I mean, I think Slaney's not the greatest solo, but I don't think Wolves would have been that much of an upgrade. I have no idea how much he's been scrimming, and if we did scrim with him for those 2 scrims before this weekend, we'd be losing out on practice with Sot, because we were still scrimming with Sot, planned on scrimming with Sot.
So we finished scrims, we played the Leviathans, and we got 4-0'd. We didn't win a single game, even though I kind of played really well in those scrims. We had like pretty decent leads, and you know, it kind of ended up being like a little bit of a frontline diff in some of those games. So I was frustrated because we were kind of just ignoring Wolves when Wolves, you know, he's right there. And if we had Wolves, we'd probably end up winning like 2 or 3 of those games. It's just scrims, but I'm saying like potentially like Wolves would be overall just better for us. And in the SPL, it's like the most competitive league, and you want to better your chances and have the best shot at winning possible. And that's my whole mindset when I play, is try to win regardless of what set it is. If it's not, whether it's regular season or like playoffs, like I still want to win. Like that's the whole mindset. And yeah, I got up, went to the kitchen, and I guess I brought that PC home, the Alienware PC, and I guess my mute button wasn't bound because it's a new whole S rig. So my stuff wasn't bound to mute. I got up, went to the kitchen, and yeah.
And then we just started hearing him shouting in like the back, like, you know, and you can tell somebody's not talking into their mic. You can tell it's like a little bit away from the room, and they're just being very loud. First off, just blew up on all of us and just called us all names. And then he kind of turned his attention to Slaney. Made it widely known to his parents that he thought Slaney was a horrible, horrible player. And then as soon as I heard that, I left the call, because that was like the straw that broke the camel's back. I did not want to play with him again.
I hear, I don't even know. It's like, I still can't believe it to this day, but
I guess Brennan was just apologizing for him the entire time, because Brennan just felt so bad that it was even happening. And Slaney ended up messaging him to mute. And Lyris like doubled down, like he just went into that full self-destruct mode and just, no, I don't want to mute.
I didn't take it back. I was like, that's how I feel. I told him it was bullshit, and that's how I feel straight up. Like, if you guys want to judge me off that and kick me, then do it, but that's, you know. And then it wasn't wrong. I mean, obviously it was delivered like wrong, but it wasn't, you know, there's really no lies being told.
And we ended up just talking after, and we're like, yeah, I think we just have to kick him now. Like, Slaney's not going to want to coach him. I mean, Brendan's probably embarrassed that it happened because of how much they've known each other. I was embarrassed, and I just didn't want to team with him again. So we kicked the Layers 2 minutes after everyone left the call.
That's why I say just like I'm just very disappointed, and even like how he's reacted afterwards. Like,
there was a lot of conflict between me and Slaney prior to that happening on the team throughout the year. You can ask any boys on the team. We would definitely clash a lot over Discord, whether it's him pressuring me to move down quicker, or like I didn't do something right in scrims, or anything really. One thing I could do different is probably not get Slaney as a coach, and that's about it. True, really, yeah.
I mean, at that point we only had 2 because we had Sot benched. Right. It was literally me and Brendan on the starting roster. So we ended up going with Stu for this last weekend because we know he is an ADC player, and he has those just innate thinking thoughts in the back of his head of how to play ADC. We're kind of wanting some of that SPL experience. It's another reason why we're looking at Scream. Obviously, everyone knows Scream's SPL experience. Great theory crafter too, and I think this meta fits him actually really, really well, because him and Sino are 2 of those guys that just love that hybrid build, run it down, fight, perma style.
If I envision Layers getting another shot at the league, I think it depends on him. If he shows a little bit more maturity, or maybe even throwing out an apology about that, he might still think he's right, but he didn't do himself any favors with that twit longer. It doesn't matter if you are 100% correct in that situation. There's lines you do not cross.
He's been a friend and teammate for years, for everything to kind of settle the way it has, and the direction he's taken, I don't really agree with at all. So, yeah.
And that looked like it was going to be it. Pretty simple, right? I mean, Zapman just goes to the Atlantis Leviathans. The Scarabs pick up Stewart and Scream, keep SOT on the roster. Seemed like we were all done with. Until we weren't. The Tartarus Titans decide that they need to make a change, and it's going to be in the jungle. They remove Scary D from his position and begin to look for some new junglers. Now, if only there was someone who had just been released from his team.
I was talking to Hindu Man about this earlier as well, as like, I feel like we could have helped him more, and I feel like it's partially like my fault. A lot of it's my fault. I don't know. Roster changes suck, and we just weren't playing as well as I feel like we could as a team, and we just thought it would be easier if we could get somebody who's more familiar with the jungle or more comfortable playing in the jungle.
We kind of just were making the exact same mistakes from the beginning of the season, and it did not seem like we were improving at all. And yeah, the scrims are just going pretty bad. Like, we just make the same mistakes. Everyone's really demoralized, and it's starting to get to like where everybody wanted to like stop playing. So and then once we lost to the Warriors, we got 2-0'd by them. It was just like everybody knew we had to make a change. I think Max, Aurora, I should say, and Cyclone said that they could potentially get Sino. And so what happened is we basically just like trying out a bunch of junglers to see who fit in the best with our team.
I thought I made a strong case that I could play on that team. They gave Sino some time this past weekend, like basically the same amount of time that I had with them, and we were more successful with me than we were with Sino. Because Sino lost that set against the Leviathans when he was on that team, and we didn't lose. We were like we were almost undefeated in scrims too. We lost like a couple games, but that's about it. But we were playing really, really well like leading into that weekend. So I wasn't really surprised when we beat the Bolts, but when we beat them, I was like in my mind, I was like, we have a really good chance to like play again on this team. So
I don't know. We just played better with players. We had a team talking about it the other night, and me and Benji both were just saying like we We felt like Layers like was we fit in like way more naturally. Like I don't know, with Sino wasn't the same. Like I didn't have the same synergy with like when I was playing with Layers in scrims. When I say this, we literally went 10-0. Like the second we got Layers in scrims, like we were actually just squashing everyone.
I think my mentality was like, even on the Scarabs, like prior to that like blow up, my mentality was like probably the strongest on the team. Aside from that one little incident where, I mean, obviously I got really upset, but it kind of like a lot of that was like a lot of build up leading into that happening, and I think my mentality is fresh, and I'm just gonna do what I can to play and do well for the Titans. So,
with 1 week to go before playoffs, finally, teams were set. The Leviathans drop Julio, pick up Zapman. The Scarabs lose Layers and Zap, keep Solar Troll, pick up Stewart and Scream. And the Tartarus Titans end up with Layers, losing Scary D in the jungle. Now hopefully, at least for the short time, and this should be it for roster changes, as long as everyone remembers to keep their mute key bound.